Well, that ought to do it. Think you used enough dynamite there, Butch?
I need Steve Surjik on like a sort of a series of recorded loops that can just advise me in my day-to-day life. Like, do not get out of the
Stay in the
car. Do
car.
not
Let them
confront.
come to you. That's right.
Yeah,
Reach
do
under your
not
seat.
confront.
Act like you have something.
Yes, yes. Do not confront angry truck drivers. Do not do the. I thought of you actually watching the Devo documentary this week because you're a very cerebral guy, as is Devo. I didn't realize that Mark Bar's headquarters is that round building on Sunset that I always thought was like a retail Gucci thing, or you know. But what was interesting about it is
All right.
they all have like a Steve Surjikness to their delivery in terms of intelligence and intellectualism, yet entertaining in that delivery. And at one point, Devo opened up for themselves as another group, and people in the audience were yelling, "You suck! We want Devo!" And they thought it was hilarious. Anyway,
That's funny. That's very
yeah,
funny. And I appreciate the comparison. I was never a fan, not because I didn't like them. I just never really was,
right.
exposed to them. They
Well,
were
they
out at
were
a,
they're smart dudes.
yeah, yeah, they came out at a, I didn't realize that they were LA based.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, I mean, I guess they were in Ohio during that big um, shooting. You know, the National Guard.
Oh,
They were at
back
Ohio
back in the
State.
60s or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
There's a
is
song.
interesting because I
Neil Young
pictured him
sings a
younger.
song about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
I
people were
picture him
killed.
younger than Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Don't you?
Yes, yes.
But
But you can't
anyway,
tell when you got sunglasses and goop on your hair.
no, when
Um,
you're wearing a flower pot, man, it's anyone's guess.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, wow, we live in interesting times.
Today's show, though, folks, for Field Report, it's a special one with director Steve Surjik because he wants to talk to you about the work of Michael Mann and Robert Redford, and not necessarily in that order.
Well, first we want to just talk about. We want to take our hats off and pause for Robert Redford. Has a great career,
Yeah.
great man, a guy who was born in California. These are, the facts. I mean, he was born in Santa Monica, I guess.
Hmm.
He had a scholarship to play baseball, which he drank too much
Really?
and was yeah his scholarship was canceled, or
Mm.
half of it was canceled. But he went on to he went to Europe and studied painting and art, and then some drama. Went to some drama classes. Um, I mean, I'm always interested in the fallibility of a character rather than kind of everything that they do. That's great. You could look at Robert Redford and say this guy, he picks up a football and he can throw it like a bull at 100 yards. I mean,
Hmm.
the guy was good at everything, right? I mean, he's good looking, he was strong, he was intellectual, he was an advocate for the less fortunate. Everything he did was great. I mean, but this is a guy who also had struggles, you know.
Yeah.
And I can go and list his credits, etc. I mean, Barefoot in the Park was his first big success. He was in like 5 movies with Jane Fonda. Him and Robert Redford and who was
Well,
his other.
Pollock was his big collaborator, right?
Yes, everything that Robert Redford did was like spectacular. He was good in sports. He was an artist. He supported the underprivileged. Everything he
Yeah.
did was good. He started Sundance Film Festival, which is about independent films. But I'm always interested more in the fallibility of a character and kind of what brings them, what makes them special, and what gives them character. And aside from his drinking problem in high school, I was fascinated with the fact that after doing well, first of all, I don't know if it's a well-known fact, but he lost a child when the child was very young.
Yeah.
And people saw this movie called Ordinary People, and it won an Academy Award. But there's definitely, you can see the parallels between his life and what happens in this movie, or at least you can understand what gives him the insight to do something that's honest and truthful about something so painful and how it affects your
Hmm.
relationship. Um, This was a movie, of course, that won a bunch of Academy Awards. It beat Raging Bull for Best Director, which I have mixed feelings about, but
That's hard to believe, isn't it?
it
Now,
is. It is.
but
It is.
yeah,
Because Raging Bull is like pure cinema. It's pure directorial magnificence. Whereas Ordinary People is like more of a screenplay. It's more of a human scale drama. It's great. It's great. It's meaningful, but
right.
they're quite different. Anyway, uh, moving through he did great movies. He worked on entertaining movies, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
He worked on great thrillers like the 3 Days of the Condor. Now, this was a movie that was very critical of very it's actually fascinating in a bunch of ways. It's very critical of the CIA, and it kind of got and his director was saying to him, you're trying to make a protest movie, and I'm trying to make an entertaining movie. And the two of them were apparently a little bit of loggerheads during that for that very reason. But the movie is great. It's suspenseful. It's fun. It has, it's sexy. It made me really paranoid. And the ending of it was fascinating with
Hmm.
the mercenary talking to him about how, as a mercenary, you don't have to take a side. You just work your job and everything is fine. And he drives him back to New York City with him, gives him a ride. It's
Not only
fantastic.
gives him a ride, but tells him how to look for it when the assassin comes for him because he knows it's
Right.
coming.
It'll be someone who he trusts. It'll be
Yeah. I mean, I'll say with confidence that 3 Days of the Condor may be the best espionage film ever made. There's some close comparisons. It was the one movie at Warner Brothers that the executives, when I was at feature development, the directors, the writers, the DPs, Owen Royceman shot it. Everyone would agree that that movie was a work of art. No one ever had a criticism of it. Like everyone was always like mesmerized and had a favorite scene and was blown away. And I think now we've seen it, mimeographed so much that it doesn't strike anyone as this hard hitting piece. But at the time when that came out, people were like, what? The movie
Is
was
it true?
fantastic.
Is it true that the studio was having really struggled with the sex scene between him and who
You
was it?
know, it shot as if they
Faye
struggled with
Dunaway.
it.
Faye Dunaway was
Yeah,
it
Faye
was.
Dunaway. I mean, they were probably having more trouble with Faye Dunaway than they were a sex scene with Faye Dunaway.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
but I don't know. It shot as if they had an issue with it. Now
Yep.
that you say that,
It's a little bit funky. Like it's a little bit jump. It's a little like it's stylish, but it's not within the style of the rest of the show. It's
yeah,
kind
and
of
it's probably a moment that you would not be able to put in the film today without some severe like infighting between the executives and the crew and the creatives because it's got a bit of Stockholm syndrome
oh no, it's
vibe
it's
to it.
it's terrible. You can't get away with that scene today. And you
Yeah,
can't. It's not in the movie. And the writer who wrote it would be no longer working. I mean, some of the
right.
lines that they have, and I'm not going to say them, but they're just shocking.
You know,
But it's sort of within the time frame. It's
Yeah, I mean,
something.
you can't have. There was no executive alive who would okay a movie with Redford and Dunaway without a love moment
Right.
in the '70s. That just would not. The script would just not move past production without
No, I
that.
was talking
So
about the R word, because they
yeah,
were like, talking about, I haven't hurt you, but the night is young, she
yeah.
says. Now, the fact is at the very end, the mercenary says, what is it, I forget his name.
Was
Anyway,
Joe Bear played by Max von Sydow.
Max von Sydow says, everything made sense. You were great. Every move you made was unpredictable, except how did you pick the girl? That was the most fascinating thing. And he said, random.
Yeah,
She was just in the crowd. Not her car, not her look, no, nothing. It was just random.
I
And there was
love.
something philosophical about that I liked.
Yeah, I love that moment because the professional is still trying to be a better professional and learn how this guy slipped his net, and he does it. I mean, the advantage to Redford's character in the film is that he reads everything and he absorbs it and he's studies, which leads to the movie unfolding the way it does and the reasons for the action that takes place. But so he's pretty smart going into this and he does that great move when he gets the kids to kind of block him. He knows that they come across each other in the elevator and they just know they're both targets of each other, and they ride to it, and he tries to get off on the floor, and Gilbert is like, this is the second floor. And then he's like, after you. And he's like, no, after you. And then he knows he's waiting outside to take a shot at him. So he gets those kids to like block their path. It's such a genius exchange.
I thought it was the best scene. But I think once he was in the crowd, I just had seen Boncito like smash up everyone in his office. I don't think he would have had a problem smoking those 10 kids that were there. You know what I mean? To get
Probably
to
not. Probably not.
And
he would have just gunned them all down.
Yeah. There's a bunch of those issues, but I mean, still, it was really well conceived, really clever. And what I didn't understand was, I get at the beginning, it was quite by chance that he left the office by a back door because it was raining, because it was his turn to get lunch or whatever. When he gets back, everybody's gone, or everybody's been, executed. But so that's why they didn't get him. But I don't know what they were doing in the office. Like what they were like reading stories, all new material, all new fiction material was being looked at as potential, plots for foreign services.
I felt like they were analysts looking for codes or communications within literature,
within the book.
Lit context. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, what's kind of good is it's ambiguous enough to be plausible and interesting, and
true that.
It doesn't slow you down.
No, and they even it was fascinating because this was a movie that was made 40 years ago. They anticipated a military action in Kuwait, basically, with over the oil, and they also anticipated that there was going to be a splinter group within the CIA. All very fascinating, all very fascinating.
I think one of the things that's mesmerizing about it is all the performances are centered. No one overextends themselves in terms of dramatics or choose the scenery. I mean, even Cliff Robertson is so measured that it's almost like he deals with this every day. And that guy who answers the phone, this is the major, rooting you to Parker Center, and he puts him through.
That job, I don't know if it was like bizarre, these telephones. Yeah. Did you notice that he was in a wheelchair?
Yeah, I love that. I love
that too. He actually was somebody who was, that had to sit in front of phones. That's for a job, but he knew everyone. He was like the conduit. It was great.
But it's such a moment where he's like reporting the hit, and he's getting hit with all these irritating bureaucratic questions like, are you damaged? Are you armed? What is the armament? And he's like, God damn it. Don't you hear what I'm telling you?
They're all dead. Everyone.
Yeah.
This is a major.
This is Joe Turner. Listen.
Identification?
What?
Identification.
My name is Turner. I work for you. Now listen.
Identify yourself.
I don't...
What is your designation?
Condor. Section 9, Department 17. The section's been hit.
What level?
What level?
Level of damage.
Everybody. Dr. Lapp, Janice, Ray, Harold. Harold was in the,
Are you on a company line?
No, I'm in a phone booth. I'm just a block away. I'm in the street.
You're in violation of secure communication procedures, Condor.
Listen, you son of a bitch. I'm telling you, I came back with lunch and it was raining and the whole house was murdered. Everybody is dead.
Right. Has the incident been discovered by anyone outside the company?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Are you damaged?
Damaged? No.
Are you armed?
I have Mrs. Can't remember her code name. Nightingale. She was afraid of being raped. She kept a gun. I've got the gun.
Identify the armament.
It's a .45 automatic. Will you guys bring me in, please? I'm not a field agent. I just read books.
Leave the area.
All right, well, what do I come into headquarters now?
By yourself. You're not using the proper context, Condor, and it's just so infuriating. But then, they bring in Cliff Robb. They bring in all these really good actors. The actor who plays Wicks, everyone who's kind of coming in to be like, I mean, even when Wicks gets the news, they like present him and he's like, your section has been hit in New York. And he's like, they're bookworms, for Christ's sake. And he's like picking up the phone. He's like, I need a chopper on the pad now. And he flies out. And then Cliff Robertson is like taking the distress call. And just, I thought Robertson's performance was so good, even right up to the end
Mhm.
when he's explaining the philosophy of the whole game they're playing.
Yeah, I
It-
agree. I agree. He was great, and he's always been a great actor. I've always been a big fan of his, but sort of faceless in a way, in
yeah,
his
yeah.
just a
He was
character.
great as the Canadian in the Devil's Brigade, opposite Bill Holden in the World War II movie, but that's a subject for another day. But I
Uh-huh.
thought what was good in this is that he kind of came off as sympathetic, but more understanding of the global picture. And it's like these are just things that happen, Condor. You
Right,
know, there's
right.
a bigger chess game at play besides your little outpost and your day shift.
That's right.
You
And
know,
why?
but
And
the
you and
janitor, what about the janitor, Steve? That's what I want to ask you about. When the janitors go in the building and they're like, hit confirmed, 6
yeah,
items, you know, and he's like,
yeah.
give
The
me a
cleanup, the
rundown on
clean,
those
the
items.
cleanup crew
Yeah,
is
yeah.
like something else. Yeah. I
And
guess
then
they exist. I don't know.
I just thought it was such a clever way. And later, Cliff Robertson says something like, "Oh, we're going to need more janitors or something. I'm going to send you more janitors." But he's like, "Yeah, hit confirm night items. Johnson, Tharawak, Nightingale." Just starts going down the list. Just really, I thought it was so well done and so
Yeah,
subtle. Like it
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah. It's
It allows.
real procedural, but stuff
Yeah,
you'd never seen before and probably haven't seen since.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And the audience lets you put it together. It doesn't like hit you over the head the way it would now.
right.
With like an
That's right.
overabundance of connectivity and telegraphing.
Yeah, and
You know.
exposition and reiteration
Hmm.
and overfeeding. And that's one of the things that Robert Redford always fought for in these things is apparently he didn't want to what did he say with the words? Oh, he wanted to make his audience think. He wanted to
Yeah.
give his audience just enough to have them work for it. And that's kind of what these are, and that's why he started the Sundance Festival. And that's why he was fascinated with independent films, so so-called independent films, because they were movies that could potentially be, um, more audience participation, I guess, is the
I feel like he saw it all as potential art pieces. Like, let's see what this young new artist has created outside of the system. And he wanted to be a curator of all of that. But it cannot be lost on our business what the impact of the Sundance Film Festival has been.
Right. Well, he's
You know.
also, he's, I mean, at this time in our lives, in America, I mean, he was an environmentalist
Hmm.
extraordinaire. Like he really, really put a lot of his own money in environmental programs. He was involved in a lot of those I guess they'd be called progressive movements.
Yeah.
And Jane Fonda was a close friend of his. And you were just saying that about his relationships, intellectual and art. Uh, there was there's a writer Marquez, that he became friends with. I don't know if you know this. It's a fascinating story. But at the Sundance Festival, he wanted Marquez to come in and open a Spanish lab.
Good.
Not to teach, obviously not to teach Spanish, but rather to uh, you know legitimize the Spanish film scene at the Sundance Festival. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, but Marquez said, "Yeah, I'll do that, but you have to come to Cuba with me." And okay. So they went to Cuba, and he met Che Guevara's widow, and she had a book called the Motorcycle Diaries, which she sold to him, which was his memoir.
Hmm.
And he produced that movie. That was a big movie for him, the Motorcycle Diaries. And what it's about is, of course, a couple of kids running through South America on the motorcycles and they're watching, the discrepancy between the rich and the poor. That's really kind of
Right.
at its core what it was. But it was directed, ironically, by a Brazilian director. I forget his name, but he's a billionaire
Really?
and he's like the top director in Brazil. And he
Okay.
yeah, how about that, huh? And he's
Yeah.
really, you can I was thinking, how can that be? But I guess why not, right? You know.
Why not indeed? Hey, man, there are no rules in our business. Anyone with the talent and the drive in the industry can make it happen for themselves. So go for it. Billionaires or
Yeah.
the pauper on the street, man. I'm rooting for all of you guys to come up with something inventive.
There you
I look
go.
at Redford's career and I think all the President's Men, Butch and Sundance, 3 Days of the Condor, Out of Africa, The Natural, and I think what a string of monster movies. The
Right.
Electric Horseman,
Yes.
and really just The Sting.
The Sting, yeah, amazing. Yeah, really, really did well at the. I'm not as big a fan of The Sting, but it's probably one of his most successful movies, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would think so. But I mean, to be in,
The Way We Were.
yeah, The Way We Were, right.
He apparently he was speaking to the director saying, "Yeah, I don't want. She's not going to sing, is she?" And apparently, he said, "Well, because I don't want to do a musical." And sure enough, she sang. He said, "No, she sang. She sang the song that she sang. Won an Emmy, a
Yeah.
Grammy, an Academy Award, like for best song. Like it did great." And but he was just fighting to give the character, I guess,
Hmm.
to give him human pulse.
Yeah.
That's what he got.
Exceptional. I mean, I love a lot of his films. I think Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is one of the greatest westerns ever made.
Love it. You just can't go wrong with that one. It's a great time. And you can read the critical reviews at the time, and people were a little tough on it, but it was great. I still enjoy it.
Yeah, I love it. And the humor between those two is so organic and unforced. And it flows so naturally that they really do strike you as two lifelong friends up to no good. And that movie, and then I just saw The Natural the other night, and I have to say I was completely moved by the movie when he hits the home run, when Glenn Close stands up in the stands and he sees her and he hits the home run and the ball goes through the clock and boom and the soundtrack kicks in and the bat boy is giggling, like in the dugout, and he runs the bases, and it's like he's got his magic bat. I mean, that movie, Randy Newman soundtrack, just incredible. Like, like whoever was on his team, whether it was his own intuition or his agents and managers who decided the projects, he really had some hot streaks there. Really good films.
And he did understand the inside baseball. I
Yeah.
mean, he was literally a great ball player. He could throw,
Yeah.
very rare indeed. He was always late.
I know. That pisses me off to hear that, doesn't it?
He
Yeah.
apparently didn't say, what? Who's late all the time?
Jerry Zeismer, the AD, wrote that in his book because he was the AD on The Way We Were, and said Redford would show up. He'd be told the time, and he'd show up late, and he'd claim he didn't know, and which fucking infuriating.
In Butch, yeah, I can't stand it. In Butch Cassidy, I learned something from that movie because when I was watching it as a kid, I also watched the making of that movie, and I realized that visually what they were doing is they're always putting something in front of the camera, like foreground. I know this sounds like just my personal journey here, but that foreground in when you're shooting is just a huge thing. It's something that, for me anyway, personally, it changed. If I'm getting notes from the studio, I put more foreground in, and they stop. I mean, it's bizarre what it does to an image. It just makes it so much richer, three-dimensional, understandable. It gives it sort of geographical reality. And they were on that show. There was dust, there was smoke, there was trees, there was cactus. I always put something in front of the lens. And they had a little bit of there was a lot of controversy about the song that they sang. Sun drops keep on.
Yeah.
And she's like they're riding the bike around, and she's like dating both of them, I guess, is what was going on there. I don't know.
think the implication is that she could have been in love with either one, but she certainly had things. There were certainly things about Butch that made him lovable. is what it is how it kind of came. But you're right, the song is ridiculous. Yet to me, it works. Still, it doesn't take me out of
Sure.
the movie.
No, I didn't, but the critics weren't so crazy about it. And and apparently she was, at the time, she was going out with, or married to, the director of photography, you know?
Oh yeah.
So when she
Oh,
showed
was it
up,
Conrad Hall? Because
yes,
Conrad Hall
yes,
shot it. Yeah.
yes, Conrad Hall. So Conrad Hall shot it. So when she showed up the first day, she just came out to set, see what was going on. He had 5 cameras rolling, and he needed somebody. He didn't have an operator for number 5, so he put her on it. And I guess that caused a bit of a problem. Some of the boys were like, "No, that's against the rules. Don't break it." So she got banned from the set.
It's
I
kind of
guess.
hilarious what constituted a problem when you're shooting in the late 60s versus now. But
Isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't it?
yeah, Conrad Hall was a master. I mean, maybe up against Tak Fujimoto, he was like the best in the business at the time. And then, of course, you had Owen Royceman, who I met at Warner Brothers when we were doing the Exorcist director's cut. He did 3 days of the Condor. I mean, these were great DPs. These guys had incredible
Yeah.
intuitive vision.
Yeah, Hall was amazing, and he's done a lot of stuff that was amazing. But
I mean,
Tak did something wild, didn't he? Yeah, that's what he. Yeah, he used to work with Jonathan Demme a little
Demi,
bit.
yeah. I
Anyway,
mean, the idea of like a posse chasing you that you never see gives us sort of that feeling of Jaws almost. You know, it's
mm.
like that was such a great move to never show the posse, never get into their personalities or the reasons for being in a posse. And
Well,
also, it
in the
what's that?
documentary, I'm going to interrupt you. In the documentary, how they made the movie, they got into that because they did have shots of them in the distance. And they talked so much about psychological distance and about physical distance and about how
Hmm.
lenses help or hinder that, the artificiality of that or the reality of that. And that was, I still think about that when somebody's observing someone else what is a real distance? When does that feel real? And when is it believable for an audience? That's a huge thing
Right.
for production companies to figure, well, for directors and DPs to figure out. Um, but and the other thing is just those horses coming. Do you remember the horses coming off the train? They hit that
Beautiful.
train. They couldn't have the horses couldn't do that, of course, naturally. So they had to build a run up to one side of the car, and the camera was at 90 degrees to the door. So when the door opened up, the horses come running up that ramp and then out that door like as if they're like going 60 miles an hour.
What the hell is that? Whatever they're selling, I don't want it.
Will you leave it? Come on! Yeah! Hey, Butch! What? They're very good.
I love
And
that they
with one
take the
person.
time to not show an engineer either, like it's a phantom train that
Yes,
just like rolled in from the edge of hell,
yes.
and no one knows who's
Yeah,
driving it or
yeah. It was
what's
like
happening.
steaming, and it was like a devil.
Yeah.
Truly, it did have yeah, it had a personality for sure.
Now,
Um,
supposedly Butch Cassidy's sister showed up on the set of this because this happened in 1890, right? So supposedly she showed up and she told the production crew and Newman. Newman told the story that she said Butch survived the gunfight in Bolivia and came to see her several times, and
huh.
that they both him and Sundance like worked a ranch. Now it's her story, but they worked a ranch under like fake names until they were like old men or something. I don't. Anyway, it's kind of adds to the folklore a bit, doesn't
That's
it?
fantastic. Yeah, that's great. That's a really good story.
Because there was that mystery. Remember, even when the movie came out, it kind of reignited it. Like, were they killed? Where were their bodies? We never saw them.
I thought it
You
was
know?
such a at the time it was a bold and avant-garde ending. They freeze frame
Yeah.
them, and you hear the gunshots go off, and they
Yeah.
sort of start to treat that with that photograph, so it yellows and it gets grainy, and then
Yes.
the music plays. Brilliant ending.
I got a great idea where we should go next. I don't want to hear it. Change your mind when I tell you. Shut up. Okay.
Your great ideas at God is.
Forget about it.
I don't ever want to hear another one of your ideas, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Australia. I figured secretly you wanted to know, so I told you. Australia.
That's your great idea.
Oh, boy, it's the latest in a long line.
Australia's no better than here.
Oh, that's all you know.
Name me one thing.
They
Name me
speak
one
English
thing.
in Australia.
They do?
That's right, smart guy, so we wouldn't be foreigners. Got horses in Australia. Now they got thousands of miles we could hide out in. A good climate, nice beaches. You could learn to swim.
No, swimming isn't important. What about the banks?
They're easy. Easy, ripe, and luscious.
The banks are the women.
Well, once you got one, you got the other.
It's a long way, though, isn't it?
Ah, everything's got to be perfect with you.
I just don't want to get there and find out it stinks. That's all.
At least think about it.
All right. I'll think about it.
Hey, when we get outside, when we get to the horses, just remember one thing. Hey, wait a minute.
What?
You didn't see the fours out there, did you?
The force? No.
Oh, good. For a moment, I thought we were in trouble.
Then it became, so overused. It was like a cliche, but then
I mean, that's the thing, though. Remember, we're seeing a lot of these 3 Days of the Condor and Butch and Sundance. A lot of those were first-time moves.
right.
And that's, I think, why they stuck with us. And young kids today are like, eh. But that's because, obviously, the production machinery has repeated and repeated and repeated it. But I love that at the time. I remember being sad when I saw this on television at the ending, because through the entire movie, they're like beloved by the community.
Yeah.
Like even the sheriff that they have to tie up is like their buddy.
Yeah.
And everyone loves him. Like even the gang is reluctant to challenge him or,
Yeah.
and
Geez,
they're
Sundance, I don't want to get down on you, but so he's going to want to kill you if there's always a sweet side to the assassination.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
I mean, there's that moment where they're like confronted by the gunmen in Bolivia who've been stealing the payroll, and Newman, in a in my mind, very believable fashion, goes, "Kid, I got to tell you something, and this may not be the best time to do it." And he's like, "What?" He's like,
I've never killed a man.
Yeah. And you're like, this guy's never even, but it almost makes you root for them even more.
Of course it does, because they're not mercenaries. They're guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're guys with a conscience. They're guys with
Yeah,
empathy. So you can love them back, it's safe,
very much.
Yeah,
Very
it
much.
was great. That was a great movie. It was a great
Yeah,
movie.
very poetic right through the end. I think to me, it's one of the top 3, 4 westerns out there. It's up there with the Wild Bunch, which, by the way, the Butch Cassidy gang was called the Wild Bunch. But the
Hmm.
reason they didn't call this the Wild Bunch is because the Wild Bunch was also in production, and they
Oh,
had kind
wow.
of bounced on the name first over at Warner Brothers. But their name wasn't the Hole in the Wall Gang. It was called the Wild Bunch, and there was like a revolving door of like 30 or 40 members.
Wow.
So like every
Wow.
ranch hand in like the Midwest was probably part of the gang at some point. But
Did some time on it. Yeah.
yeah,
Hilarious.
wonderful movie,
Wonderful. Yeah. It was.
and definitely, that is one of the all-time great cinematic moments to this day. It still holds up.
Yeah. And I think they both said, both of the leads were saying that they've never had more fun on a movie. So
Well, you can imagine. You
now
can.
I heard that they started playing practical jokes on each. I didn't like hear it on the street. I mean, this is in the folklore, But one of them was Newman liked racing a lot. He was obsessed. He
Yeah.
talked about it all the time, and I guess Redford would be like, "Oh, I can't stand it." So he sent him private leave. He found a Porsche that was all smashed up at a wrecking yard, and he got it wrapped up and dropped off at Newman's place. They put it in front, wrapped it up like a gift. And then he waited, and I guess Newman didn't say anything about it. It was nothing. He just but they would have dinners together as families, nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything. So
Well,
then one day he showed up. There was something that showed up on his front line. It had been melted down into a block. It had just been melted crushed and melted to a block. And so this thing went back and forth a whole bunch, and they never ever talked to each other about it. It just went on.
I mean, clearly they were good friends. I had some friends who worked with Newman who said he was fantastic to work with. That was obviously later in his career, but said he was fantastic. You probably met Redford, haven't you?
I have not, no. And but I did speak with it was a writer, someone who wrote something. I can't remember. It wasn't. I can't remember what they wrote with him, but there was maybe it was all the president. Anyway, they wrote. It was an important writer, and they're saying that that this is somebody that he thought was a great guy and that was very close to and was a man of the people. And
Yeah.
then he tried to call him 8 months after the job was completed, and the line had been disconnected.
Ugh.
It's just a point about the Hollywood life. You can't.
Right, right. Well, I certainly have heard good stories about Redford. The one about him being late was in Zeismer's book, and that's kind of gut-wrenching because that's the one thing that'll make everyone absolutely aggravated. But you can't argue with the movies the guy picked.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, no. They're fantastic, and he's a
wow.
great human being, and everything he did was good for the people. It was awesome. He just
Yeah.
what he's like he died at 82, married twice,
89, right? Was it 89?
89. Yeah, there was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he yeah, and we haven't really talked about the way we were or any of those other. I mean, but these were the great movies.
Yeah.
In The Graduate, he apparently I was up for The Graduate, and the director asked him what it was like to be rejected by a woman because that was an important thing in The Graduate. And he said, "What?" He said, "Exactly." So he hired Dustin
Yeah.
Hoffman. This
I've
guy
heard
was
that
just,
story too. Yeah, the executives were like, no one's going to buy this guy,
yeah,
and they weren't wrong. I mean, he was very relaxed on camera.
right.
And he had a sense of gravitas. He never overplayed something. In fact, I would even argue that in most of his scenes where they were pivotal moments designed for an actor to make a statement, he almost withdrew from it a little bit,
Yep. Yeah,
and let the
and
audience fill in the blank.
yep. And you know what they say, it's better to have rather than having the actor cry, you try to get the audience to cry, and that's kind of what he did intellectually, I
Yeah,
suppose,
yeah.
or that's what he's.
What would you recommend for people to see from the Redford arsenal tonight? If they knew him from something recent like All Is Lost or the Avengers film where he popped
I
in, like what?
I still love the. I mean, maybe 3 Days of the Condor, which was originally called 6 Days of the Condor,
Yeah,
but the filmmakers thought that it should be better if it was three. That might be a bit of a I think that's a good. I think that one. Listen. I think Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is the one to watch.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You would have more fun watching that than the others are fantastic, but that movie has a sense of everything in
Yeah,
it.
that'll get you in. They'll get you in.
Yeah.
That'll get you started, and then you can go down the list because, as you said, they're all great. It's all really hard to beat. That list. It's
When
amazing.
Newman climbs on the train and it's Woodcock again, and he's blown up and damaged from the last time they robbed it, and the safe is just loaded with steel, like trappings to keep it locked. And he's like, Woodcock, why'd you have to go do a thing like that? And then they plant so much dynamite, they blow the car off the face of the earth. It's just
And money is floating
gold.
down, or
Yeah.
it's five square acres. No,
It's,
there's lots of good fun in that movie. There's lots of good fun in it.
yeah.
And it is
I would
that.
almost say I
It
would
is
almost
those
say it's not even
characters.
doesn't even feel like a Western to me. It's
Yeah,
just a buddy
yeah,
pit. Anyway,
yeah,
I didn't mean to talk over you, Steve.
No. That's it. We're in violent agreement that Butch Cassidy, the Sundance Kid, is probably the number one. That's the way into the
Yeah.
legacy. And then after that, you can go. You go to a baseball movie, you go to a political movie, All the Presidents. Apparently, he wanted to make All Presidents Men before it was even like, it was just in the papers at the time, and he was into it a couple months into it, and he wanted to do it, but he waited because, networks say, or I mean, studios were like, hold on a second, somebody's writing a book about this. Well, it was two great journalists were writing a book about it.
That's right.
And he bought he purchased that, and therefore got the rights for the whole story,
The actor who steals some scenes in that, though, is Hal Holbrook as Deep Throat, which we now know was Mark Felt of the FBI. But we didn't know who Deep Throat was, and Woodward and Bernstein vowed to keep him secret, and they did until after he died. They protected their source right up to the grave. But Holbrook plays it so well. And they have to meet in that garage, and you can
Yes.
only see him because he
In the
ignites a
shadow.
cigarette. Yeah.
Where are you?
Stuck. Story is stalled on us.
And you thought I'd help?
I'll never quote you. I wouldn't quote you even as an anonymous source. I mean, you'd be on deep background. You can trust me, you know that.
Come on.
Can you tell me what you know?
You tell me what you know.
Hunt worked for Colson at the White House. Hunt was investigating Kennedy and Chappaquiddick.
That should tell you a lot. What else?
Well, we're beginning to hear a lot about a lawyer at Crete named Gordon Liddy, who's... Gordon Liddy, who was fired by Mitchell because he wouldn't talk to the FBI.
You'll hear more.
Will he talk?
I was at a party once, and Liddy put his hand over a candle, and he kept it there. He kept it right in the flame until his flesh was burned. Somebody said, "What's the trick?" And Liddy said, "The trick is not minding."
So good. It's just
Yeah.
incredible. The
Yeah.
staging,
Yeah.
you know.
No, I remember. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
But I would say go Butch Cassidy, go 3 Days of the Condor, go The Natural.
Okay,
You'll feel
I'm with
pretty
you.
good about your evening.
Yeah, I think you'll be happy with that. And then it'll be 2 in the morning. You'll be tired. No one go to sleep.
And then you'll come back to us to break down the movies for you so you don't have to sit through them for 2.5
There
hours.
you go. There you go.
There you go.
So what do we want to say about? So anyway, that's it. We're gonna end with Robert Redford and his legacy. I meant just something about independent movies. People are making so many independent movies now. I met somebody who was one of the judges at that festival, and they said that this was some years ago. They had there was thousands of entries. People are making movies with their parents' credit cards, for $1.5 million. And he said there would be like 5,000 of these, 5,000 of them to go through. So they would break them up and look at them. And it's sort of it's a great thing because 1 or 2 of those breaks out, and you've got yourself, somebody who really knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
Anyway, the Sundance Festival. Always it started 1982, is that it? And now it's it's a major force,
And you've been, haven't you?
Yes, I have, but just as a punter, as
Didn't they,
someone who
you
watches the
you
movies and
mean
goes skiing.
Wayne's World 2 wasn't in the running for
Yeah, I know, it's unbelievable.
God,
The
the nerve of
independent
these
film.
Sundance elitists. But yeah, Redford, obviously, he was in the pantheon of all-time greats, great choices in terms of movie making and a passion for things that mattered, environmental, the industry itself. He said in a quote, and we'll leave it at this, that the industry had been good to him. And one of his primary goals as he got older was trying to give back to it because it had given him so much. And I think if you can end your career with working with the likes of Paul Newman, Sidney Pollack, Owen Roisman, Meryl Streep, you have had a pretty magnificent experience and
Yeah,
a pretty magnificent set of colleagues to build a career around.
he did have, the business was very good to him. He was very good to the business. And Jane Fonda said regarding his death, uh, says that he stood for an America we have to keep fighting for. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
And
it.
I would say she's right. I would say she's right.